Hey everyone, today's topic is on costing. So this is also along the same lines, in the same series as the uh, entrepreneurship. So I thought that I wanted to share some of my experiences, running startups and also having my own venture, right? So I started the earlier video in this series, which was on entrepreneurship. That was an introduction. So today I'm going to start off with costing. I think this is a very important topic. Okay, my presentation involves no figures at all. It's just to share my thinking, my perspective, and I would like to share these perspectives, with regard to my experiences. It's just a very simple, short one, but also to introduce some sanity and clarity about how costing ought to be done. It doesn't have to be very complicated. It doesn't have to be very scientific, but it has to be reasonable and and justifiable. All right, so let's have a go at it. Costing. Now, I'm sure many of you who are watching this, who might be entrepreneurs, or maybe you're still in business school and you're thinking about, starting your own business. Right? You probably have heard of many definitions of costing. I'm sure accounting textbooks give lots of definitions about costing. I'll just give you my take about what is costing. Right? It's really referring to the cost that you're going to incur in order to produce the good or provide the service, which basically means that it's anything that you must incur. For example, if you happen to be running a retail shop, that includes inventory, overheads, right? Raw materials, labor, rentals, and so on. Right, that's costing. Right. Notice I didn't mention about deposits because deposits are essentially refundable. Right. So I'm really interested in the cost that you will have to spend in order to produce the good, or maybe to sell the good, import and sell the good, whatever it is, or perhaps it could be whatever cost you must incur to finally be able to provide the service. Right. Because what actually makes a business profitable or maybe to generate a revenue is that it has incurred all these expenses in order to perform the service, sell the good, and that's how a business is able to generate revenue. Why knowing cost is so important, right? Now you might think that cost is just simply whatever you see in income statement. Income statement lists out all these overheads, repair, maintenance, and whatever it is. So why would it be so important? Right? Knowing the cost of providing the service of producing the good is important because it enables another layer of decision-making process. For instance, is it cheaper and better to produce in-house? Or is it better to just simply outsource the production to someone else, lock, stock, barrel? Right? Would it make more sense? Right? So with that, it introduces a system of thought and anchors the thought processes, thinking of like, hey, if you're going to make in-house, how do we compete, with the third party? What are they better? What other processes do they use that we are not using? Right? That is the kind of thought process I'm referring to. Right? You start to investigate, you start to question yourself like this outsourced producers, they can produce the good at 30 cents. They can sell it at 30 cents. And if you realize that they can sell that product to you at 30 cents, then you really have to ask yourself, how much would it cost you to produce in-house? Are you able to match that 30 cents or you can't? Right? And if you can't, why is it that you're not able to? Is it because this outsourced firm, they have some processes that you do not have? If they do, then why is it that you're not implementing those processes? So it really brings about the thought process, it provokes the thinking, brings to question the assumptions. Outsourced vendors can produce at 30 cents, but you actually have to incur like maybe $4. Is there something wrong with you? Or is there something wrong with the outsourced vendor? Right? So to quote what Buffett said, in a game of poker, if you don't know who's the patsy, then you are, right? So that's a matter of fact. So this, solidifies the thinking. So it gives direction and clarity. So knowing how much to make, to make a product helps aid the thinking about whether the outsourcing makes sense, right? Outsourcing simply is the application of the ability to monitor production quality, but it frees up resources to invest in like selling efforts, which is also very important, right? But it also helps to question whether the right production processes are in place in-house, right? Does it make sense? Is there efficiency in producing in-house? And many a time, it also puts into question whether we have a lot of ego in the way we make our decisions, right? Okay, my following point is that if more resources can be invested in selling, then that means you're able to get in more revenue, right? Right. And that's very critical because as a business, if you cannot generate revenue, let's not even talk about profit. If you can't generate revenue, then you're gone, right? So, and very importantly is I think there are business owners who don't understand that selling is not just handing over the goods, shake the hands, shake the client hands, collect the money, and that's it. It doesn't work that way literally. It involves far more thought process. It involves understanding the client needs. It involves knowing or trying to position the product to close the sale. Right. Understanding how much the outsourced production costs will then help to put a frame of whether it's worthwhile to produce in-house, and if any of this cost overrun in-house even makes sense, right? Let me give you an absurd example. For example, if let's say your outsourced partner produces at $4 a unit, produces and sells you at $4 a unit, you really have to ask yourself, can your in-house production facilities even sensibly match that? Put aside the ego and really question that, and by not including your own salaries in the production efforts and trying to understate in-house production costs is just simply dumb and stupid. Really, right? We really have to look at it objectively. So, which I think many business owners fail to understand, that every moment of time invested in the startup is really cost to the business, even if there is no payment, right? We talk about opportunity cost in economics, is exactly the same thing. So really, costing costing allows us to understand better whether processes make sense, whether is there something wrong or something that needs to be tweaked in the production process. I quote you an example, like cheesecake. Okay, you have baked the cheesecake, you're going to sell the cheesecake to the customers. Does it make sense to cut the cheesecake before passing it over to the customers? Does it make sense? Is cutting something that is so little in effort that you don't need to charge the customer at all? Does it make sense? No, but only when you understand what is involved in the process of satisfying the customer orders, then can you cost properly, right? Now, if you are now watching this, you probably will ask, so what's so difficult about cutting cheesecake? Now, it's not that simple, right? To cut cheesecake involves certain additional processes. Like I'm sure you can Google this on YouTube. There are plenty of examples. You can use a hot knife. That's one. To cut the cheesecake. And after each time you cut, you have to like wipe the knife. So if you are going to cut maybe make 4 cuts on the cheesecake, then to make that 8 slice. So then how many times must you have the hot knife wiped, and cleaned before you make another cut? All these add on to the production costs. So knowing the production process and understanding the effort that goes into this production processes help to put a frame, and that's very important. So therefore, at the end, you are able to compare and sensibly conclude whether it makes sense, in-house or outsource, right? Now, outsource is not simply just asking someone to do, but it also helps to put into light whether you have the right process at all. Your time, in fact, many sole proprietors, many business owners fail to account for their own time in managing the business full time. Right? If you manage the business full time, that means you forego your full time salary. So how much more cost will the business incur, right? And if the business need to incur additional costs, even if you do not draw that salary, that additional cost need to be imputed. so that you truly understand and appreciate the costs that go into running the business. Right? This it reveals the true cost of running a business. If it is passed to a third party professional to run independently, right? And even if you have achieved break even, but knowing whether you have imputed your own salary cost shows you whether you have truly broken even, right? Ignoring one's time costs will grossly understate expenses and overstate profits. So it's important to realize this. If you're going to look at the expenses of business, you have to always bear in mind that what happens if you are hired as a full-time manager, for example. How much more cost would that be per month, or per year, right? Then that brings to mind whether are you achieving that minimum volume, or are you charging appropriately in terms of price, right? Like they say, in business, there are only two things that contribute to profit: cost and the other, selling price. If you do not have a good grasp of where cost is, whether there's sufficient volume to absorb overheads, fixed overheads, you are not going to get a good sense about what is the true cost of production. Right? And therefore, if you do not understand the true cost of production, your pricing will definitely be heavily misstated, either upwards or downwards. So imputing your own salary doesn't mean that you have to be paid. It just gives clarity in terms of the real operating costs, right? Which I think most business owners, especially startups, don't want to do so because it's very uncomfortable. You get that feeling like you're at the edge of the chasm, you might fall off anytime. Yeah, I understand that, but realities cannot be ignored. So if you cannot cost properly, then you will end up having this very real problem. You either price too high or price too low, right? And the damage to the business is obvious. One is that the loss of loss of customers to competitors because the prices are too high. If not, if your prices are too low, then customers will be referred to you instead, which is not very funny, right? So really, the important thing is that really to understand cost so that decision making is very clear. Yeah. So knowing your cost helps to give that build that frame to your thinking. It becomes clearer, right? And but the thing also next is that to have a good reference point is always to ask, what happens if my competitor is selling at this price? Can I match that? That immediately tells you whether you have the right process. Right? Obviously, if you found that you have a cost much lower than competitors, it means that you have a better process than them, perhaps. Or you found a secret that they knew and you didn't know earlier on. Right? So that's my take on cost. Of course, the workings, the computation are all available on the internet. I'm not going to repeat that. But my point is that you really need to tackle the topic of cost and knowing it well enough so that when you ultimately charge your customers, you have that confidence to be able to tell them that's your cost, that's your price, and you're confident that that's the best price you can give. Right? You wouldn't be wavering, wondering if you got it right. You wouldn't at all. Right, and that's my take on this. I hope that had been informative to you. And have a great day.